Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of PixlFeed Radio, and I'm here with my friend Nikhil Paul. Nikhil, how you doing, man?
Hey buddy, what's going on?
Not much. Another day in the grind, and we're doing episode
Seriously.
73. See, I remember. So for those of you that don't know Nikhil, he's a leadership team coach who founded We Are Human, and basically what they do is they help high growth teams and companies to strengthen their focus, culture, and execution. Basically, bring them to the next level. We're going to get into all of that, of how you guys can do the same thing with your own team. So if you need, Nikhil's help, we'll talk about that too as well. But before we get into it, Nikhil, tell me a little bit about your background, man. How did you ended up here where you're training all these teams and taking them to the next level? What's the background before that?
Yeah, brother. So first of all, thanks for having me on.
Sure.
I appreciate it. So I think for me personally, it kind of started from my early college days, right? Like I started studying engineering, and a big part of engineering was, learning to break down things into its smallest problems, right? And like trying to figure out systems and what is a core root problem. So I kind of had that framework and that mindset. So when I started my first startup right out of college, it was actually meant to help students stay in engineering. So I was really kind of connected around, okay, I was one out of I went to University of Delaware, and I was one out of 100 students that joined engineering class. But dude, only 20 of us graduated out of those 100 kids who showed up on freshman day. And so
I believe it, man, because I say it all the time, engineers, you guys are your own breed. I wish, man, you know how we always say, we wish we could do other things that we can't do?
Yeah.
I wish I could think, Elon Musk, he's an engineer first, entrepreneur second. You guys just think in a complete, you guys don't look at products or objects and just look at you right away. It's how can I make it better? Or how can I don't know, invent something that goes with it, or improve it, or it's outside of the box thinking that's really creative, but at the same time you know how to execute it, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and to be completely honest, I didn't feel like I was an engineer. I felt like I was posing throughout most of college. But yeah, like you said, right? You learn the framework for breaking things down, right? I think the biggest thing I got from engineering was that the confidence to be any problem can be solved if you kind of take some time and keep breaking it down and figure out the process and the system with it. So yeah, that's exactly it, man. Engineering for me was not my field, to be honest. So I'm on your boat. But somehow I got through it, and I felt like that was the thing. A lot of people didn't get through it, and so I was like, yo, I want to start my own startup. I want to do something that's fun. And I was like, what if I figured out something that could help identify students that were going to drop out of these STEM courses, these science, engineering, math courses in college. And so that's what we did. The first version of the platform we built, my first startup was identifying how students were feeling about their courses, and then telling their colleges, their admin, these are students who are feeling really bad, and using emotions as a leading indicator. So that's kind of my first foray into two things, right? One, building a startup, building my own business, and two, trying to understand how people feel and trying to find a common connection right there with emotions, and using that as data, right? So those are two separate tracks of mine. Ultimately, we pivoted that company and we ended up focusing on employee engagement. So a bunch of our investors were like, yo, this is cool, but colleges are not paying enough and they're not moving fast enough. What if you guys try to sell this software to companies and use this to figure out how employees are feeling about their boss, their teams, their people, or their culture, and then give that insights to their leadership and managers. So that's what we did. We pivoted to that, and we built basically this really cool check-in pulse survey that was again, using emotions, right? It was yo, Christian, how are you feeling about the team this week? And if you were I'm not feeling that good, I'm feeling a little stressed out, then it would show you others in the team who felt the same way anonymously. So we built this really nifty kind of fun way to get people to give feedback. And then we would take all that data and then give recommendations to their bosses and be like, yo, you need to invest more in better communication, or your team's morale is really low. Figure out how to increase their morale. So that was a company I did for a good 4.5, 5 years. And that was awesome, man. I went to New York City, raised a bunch of money from investors, brought in a bunch of clients, built a small team. And that was literally my first foray into this world of like employee engagement and culture. Like, how do you motivate your employees? How do you keep your people retained and working really well together? And so I saw it from the data perspective, like I saw it from the back end, how people were feeling. So that was my first real business and exposure to the world of employee engagement. Then, bro, like it's like anyone who's done a small business knows this. A lot of them fail, right? And for us, we just didn't get the amount of cash we needed from our next round of investors, and our second big customer that we were hoping to get kind of dropped through. So then, it's a cash flow issue. So
let me ask you something. So the first round, how did you guys get the first round? Was it a VC?
No, family and friends. So it was literally, I basically found this really cool entrepreneur who was in my local area. She like gave a talk, and she's made a lot of money in the pharmaceutical realm. And dude, I just like talked to her for like 3-4 years every day, not every day, like every couple of months, grabbing coffee with her. And then finally she invested when I was ready to invest.
That's awesome.
That's kind of how I did it with a lot of my first investors. I didn't ask for money until I really needed the money. I mean, I had in the beginning, my uncle put in a little bit of money to kind of help kind of kickstart things. And then after that, I just kind of try to build an MVP, and get some traction before you ask for investors. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was asking because like lately it seems like VCs are just throwing money everywhere. I'm like, man, I need a software. It's just crazy to me. It's, you know, and I talked to a couple people here that either had VC investments or, have one person who's actually a VC, and he invited me to this event that they're doing in Spain at some point when this is over. I can't even remember the date, but that's going to be interesting to check it out, to see all this pitches live, because I've never seen it live. You know what I mean? So that should be really cool.
Yeah, that's, and I've done all that. Like I've, pitched so many startup competitions and things. And I will say this one thing, because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I need to get that. Like you said, it's kind of, it's like all the time on the news, right? This company gets this many millions of dollars. This company gets, I think that's good, but it's kind of like a false positive. Like I don't think that's like, just because a company gets investment doesn't mean that company is solid. Like tons of people put in a lot of money into really bad ideas, but it's because of hype. And that's one of the things I realized about investors. Investors are like kids in high school. They're constantly kind of working on peer pressure. Like, yes, there are some people who are like really doing a good job, but a lot of people are just like FOMO. They don't want to miss out. And so part of what I tell when I meet other entrepreneurs who are trying to raise money is like, you got to learn how to build FOMO when you're raising money. Because ultimately people don't want to miss out on the next big thing.
Scarcity. That's what we call it in marketing. Yeah, scarcity, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so like what I think when it comes to investors, and I learned a lot of lessons kind of fundraising and pitching. It's a numbers game, right? It's like sales in a lot of ways, but a lot of it is also psychological. You got to show that you're building something and it's growing. It's always growing. Even if it's not growing, you got to show it's growing, right? You know what I mean? So
that to show it's growing. Like, guys, we grew by 350%, but 100%. Never tell them it was like today, not the whole year.
Exactly. And also 350% of like one customer, bro, like a year ago, like just means you got 3 more customers, like 3.5 customers. Like, you know what I mean? So it's all perspective, and it's all about getting
Don't
people.
Do that, by the way. Be always truthful with everything.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also it's you're just finagling the numbers, right? Like you're not making it up, but like it's also just kind of showcasing you're making progress, because investors don't invest in dots, they invest in lines, right? And that line has to be going up in some direction. So that's one of the big things I learned is like keep in touch, right? Back to my first person who, like that first big entrepreneur investor, that lady. She was investing in me as a person because she believed in my passion. She saw that I was authentic. She kept hearing my updates and my progress milestones. And then by the time she was ready to put in the money, she was doing good. You know what I mean? Like she knew there was a risk, but at the same time, she was like, this guy's got his head squared on his shoulders. He seems to be focused. He's consistent. He keeps talking about it and he's very passionate. And all those things are really the only things you can really count on when you're that early stage. There's not like, it's really hard to predict which companies make it and which companies don't. So
yeah, no, it's like like I said, I talked to a few people. It's basically gambling on your odds. It's like out of 10 companies, we're going to invest in, out of the 10 companies we invest in, one will make it and the other 9 will fail. Mm-hmm. But the one that makes it is going to make up for the other 9. It's like running ads. Exactly. You launch 10 ad sets and one will work and the other 9 will fail if you're doing Facebook.
That's true. That's true.
That's really cool. So after, you learn from that, obviously we all learn from failures. I've been there plenty of times.
Yeah.
So, you're bummed out because, even though you're learning the lesson, it still sucks to go through it. So what happens then? Like, what was the next move?
Yeah, dude. So listen, like starting a small business or a startup, it's all time consuming. Like, I feel like I gave up my 20s into my business. You know what I mean? Like, I could have been out there making money in so many different ways, or like just having a good social life. But, when you come out of that and it didn't work out, like, you're just exhausted, bro. And like, seriously, I was like, okay, I'm just like, I need to take a break. I need to make some proper, consistent money. I don't want to have to worry about other people's paychecks, right? Like, I don't want to have to do payroll. Like, I just want to not have any.
And here's the other thing to add to the equation too, like, because this happened to me. I'm a very competitive person and I love my friends. I really do. But 99% of them took the safe route of college, career, and they grew their careers. And you know what really sucks? When in the back of your head, that no matter what, you're going to be more successful than all of them put together. Because from day one, I said it, I was going to be. And but those good 10, 12, 15 years where their careers keep going up and you're still like building. That's, for me, that was the toughest. Like, and they know I love all of them, but there's a little piece of like, man, should I taken the safe route? Like, they're happy, but then I'm like, will you do it all over again? Yes.
100%. 100%. And like, the thing I realized is, like, in the beginning, and you see this, right? Like in the 20s, like, you come out of college and you're hanging out with your friends and it's all cool. You go to the same bars, you go to the same restaurant. So it's not like that person might be working at a really high-end job, but like, it doesn't feel that different. But then once you kind of hit your 30s, then you start thinking, is
when it really starts hitting.
Like, people start like, yo, come check out my new house. And it's like, dude, something out of MTV Cribs. How did you afford this, right? then you start comparing. You're like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm still eating ramen noodles.
Isn't it weird though? Isn't it weird how much like it's not like it bothers you, because it never bothered me as I love my friends. I really do. It never bothered me as like, oh my God, like I want them to do bad. Absolutely not. It just, it's like a head game, and we can, I know for a fact we're not the only ones. Like, it's a head game that plays with you. It's, I guess it's in our DNA, man. Some people are just competitive, and this is why we do what we do. And it's like, I got to get there, or, I'm just like, I got to beat them, So, but it's weird totally like that. And if that plays, guys, if you're listening to this and you're starting out, I'm telling you, man, the head games, you just got to get through them because they're not going to go away. They're just not until you reach at a certain level, and you just got to get through it. And if you believe in what you're doing and you see that the light at the end of the tunnel, you can't give up. It sounds corny. It sounds cheesy, but that's it, man. You just can't give up. You can't give up. And, I'm a risk taker, all or nothing in everything I do. So it's like at one point, all or nothing. So if I'm nothing, then I'll be the brokest one out of all my friends, and I'm okay with that. Whatever. that's the way I looked at it.
Right. Yeah. And like, I totally agree, man. Like, you know what I mean? I think people like us, we love the adrenaline rush of starting a business. Like, it's just like, look, there's a couple of things, right? First is, you're sacrificing one thing for another with any choice you make, right? You work at a nice investment banking job. Yeah, you're making a ton of money, but then you're sacrificing like time, freedom to work on projects you care about, and just like hanging out with people and things that you really care about, right? So you're making transactions. You work on your startup, like, it's really meaningful and you're having fun, but then you're also sacrificing stable paychecks. You're sacrificing, like, you're risking failure, right? So all that stuff. So every choice has costs to it, and you have to be comfortable with the sacrifices and the costs that you make. Like, that was one of the first things I mean,
at one point, even though, I always had money, but at one point I was in a lot of debt, and it paid off, but I had to go into credit cards, man. I loaded up every credit card I could get my hands on.
Oh shit, really?
It paid off massively, but I mean, it was a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of just, wow. I mean, it got to a point where I just log in and just like, whatever. As long as the monthly payment goes through automatically and it gets paid and it's never late, that's all I care about, because your most valuable asset, I believe, in the States is your credit. That's the one that you can't mess up, because that opens your doors for everything else. And, it's 100%. Like, so I never like messed up my credit or anything else. But at one point I just told them, they're just numbers. They're just numbers. It's just a number on the screen. And at one point it's going to go away. And I tell you what, the day I woke up, and I hit that button to clear them all off, that day sucked. I'm not gonna lie, but it was like, it sucked, but it felt good because now you had the money that everything you worked for finally paid off. But it's like, damn, dude, I could have bought a fucking car without, cash. It's like, right. That's why you did it. And, and that's the freedom that we won. Now it's like, whatever, I have no debt, it's great, and it paid off. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what you're aspiring for.
Yeah, 100%, right? Like you're hoping for that big payout, right? And I think like the one thing I will say to this is like, look, I think anyone who's good at business knows that they're going to make money eventually, right? Like it doesn't take a genius to make money with your business. It's just trying to make sure that you're consistent. You're using common sense, and you have a sense of urgency, right? Like you got to hustle. You can't be complacent about it. So if you do those couple of things and align it, then it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? And I also feel like money is not the only barometer of success. Like as a business, 100%, right? You need to have profits to be sustainable and build and grow, right? 100%. But as a human being, profits is just one part. The other parts of what you can measure your success, and this is something I've thought about a lot, right? Like we're talking about our friends making more money and like having bigger houses and more things in their lives. There are other things you can measure success by. Like, for example, the size of your network, right? Entrepreneurs are natural hustlers. Like we're always out there meeting people, contacting, talking, building relationships. And people forget so often, dude, I forgot for like so long that the number of coffees and the meetings, the lunch meetings and the dinner, like the drinks and stuff I had to have with people, all that made me have a really big, like rich network, bro. Like if somebody's looking for a job, I can help them out because I know people, right? If somebody's looking to like get an intro to an investor or like meet somebody who can help them with their marketing, I know people. And I just thought that I was constantly making introductions for people. And that's the other thing I want to tell people. Like when you're starting a business and it doesn't go your way, don't think it's all for naught, because you are constantly out there meeting people in different networks, different places, different companies that most people don't get a chance to do. And that's money. Like that's tangible currency that you can use for your next business, for your professional career. So that's one thing I think about. And the second thing is the power of your brand and your skill set. Like you and I both, like, and all these people listening on your podcast, like when you work at something really, really hard and you compare yourself to the guy who worked at that exact same job in a big company, you tell me, who do you want to hire for your next job? The guy who had to learn everything from scratch, do it with like minimum resources and all these constraints, or the guy who literally got a paycheck no matter what happened, right? And that's the other thing. Your subject matter expertise, like right now with your digital marketing or whatever you're doing with the business, is incredible. Like it's like an MBA times 2 or 3. Like real life spent building something you can't compare that. You can't learn that. You can't like
I always joke around with some of my colleagues that came and these are amazing people that I talk to every day, and they're very, very successful at what they do, and their knowledge. I mean, I learn from them every day, and I'm sure they learn from me too. But 90% of them, they started with, out of college in agencies as junior media buyers, right? So the joke is always this, like, a little joke, like I always joke around with them. It's like, I wasn't handing $100K from Nike to run ads. Like I started with my own store and my own dime on my credit card. So
exactly.
No, I'm not going to let that campaign run for 7 days and see what happens. It's just like a joke. It's a different, it's different, man. When your money's on the line, it's a whole different ballgame.
And you're better at your job, bro. You had to think about the corners. You had to think about like, okay, I got this much less cash than everyone else, all these big guys. How do I make it pound for pound the best digital strategy I can put out there, right? Like you had to come up with those ideas and those concepts, and you were studying the numbers. Most people don't do that. And so that's currency, bro. Like when you go out there, you can't compare that to your friend when he's talking about how much like his car costs. You can't technically talk about how much something.
Right.
But if you're, again, looking at it from the long haul and you can market that part well, and you remember to market and brand yourself really well as a person who knows this extremely well, whether you start your own business or you get a next job, people will really benefit from that expertise.
And it's a different point of view, like you brought up. Like, for example, when I meet with some of the clients that I have, when I first meet them and we're going through the numbers and the sales and stuff like that, like when I start throwing the numbers, like the product X probably costs you X to make. Then you got the overhead of the company, which is taxes, this, and that. And then I'm like, you cost per acquisition needs to be this. And then the answer is always the same. Not one single person that we have talked to have even brought that up. I'm like, I've done it, man. I know what goes into it. I know how much like every penny goes. And it's a different advantage, you know?
It's in your blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
About it. You lived it. You know what I mean? No one has to tell you that. You lived it. And so I'm just saying, never, like, that's all I'm trying to say. Look, obviously we all want to make money and be wealthy. And obviously wealth is definitely a sign of, like, you know, success. But what I'm saying is, don't discount these other things, your networks and your subject matter expertise. And then the last thing I will say, which a lot of people don't take into account, is your brand. Bro, like, I think about this a lot. Like, small businesses in the beginning stages, a lot of times it's about if people like you, they trust you, they respect you, right? So if you come in and you're just like consistently a really hard worker, always happy, always adding value, like we talked about, right? Like your ideas, you're coming up with enthusiasm, you're being thorough. What you're not realizing is that if you do that over a period of time, it creates a brand. Like, you leave like a little emotional imprint of of your experience with that person. So whenever they think of you, they'll be like, oh, that person was cool, or like, he was all right. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I really liked working with them. And that's all they'll remember. Like, and that could be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now. That's powerful. And that's the power of brands. That's the third thing I think a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes forget to invest in, is their personal brands, and bringing that to the table to help make the sale.
No, they do. A lot of people do. So let's get into let's get into the subject of running a team and being effective. So what do you think makes an effective leader? Like, what do you think are those qualities? Like, obviously you got to have driven. I'm assuming obviously you got to be driven and you got to be part of the team. My biggest thing is, like, be part of the team. Don't be a boss. You know, if you're sitting there telling people what to do and you're not in the front line with them, then you shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? So what do you think what do you think are the 3 foundations to be an effective leader?
Yeah, man, that's a good point, right? Like, so I think there's a lot. Leadership is like, you know, everybody writes about it, everyone talks about it. There's tons of ways to kind of slice that. But, you know, when I think about what a leader is, I think about 3 specific things, right? And these are 3 specific things I think a leader, I analyze the leader by. One is mindset, right? Like, so much of what we do is already in our heads. Like, we waste so much time in our heads, we don't realize it. Like, one of the reasons I love Michael Jordan is because the dude is completely
obsessed.
Obsessed, steel trap. Like, if you watch that documentary, The Last Dance, like, one of the things his teammates talk about is that Michael has an uncanny ability to be completely present in the moment. And like, even if he missed all the last 10 shots, he doesn't care. He's only thinking about the next shot, which, if you think about it, is one of the worst qualities of most of us, is that we're stuck in the past, or like we're dreading the future. You know what I mean? Kanye West even said this the other day. He's like, people are living in 3 places, either the past, the future, or the present, right? Very few of us are actually staying in the present. So you're asking me, what is one of the top qualities a leader needs to do? You need to be like set in the present, man, with a mindset like ready to just grind, to give it everything you've got. And a lot of times people just don't have that. It's always like, you know, I'm feeling good today, I'm not feeling that good today. And that inconsistency in how you're thinking and how you're feeling leads to the second part that I think a lot of leaders need to think about, is your actions, like your discipline, right? Your habits. A lot of leadership is like learning that you're effective when you communicate and act and execute in a certain way. If you don't have discipline and you don't have focus in what you're doing and what you're saying, you're not going to be an effective leader. So that's the second thing I think about, actions. And the third part is, you were talking about, you know, being a leader who goes out there and really connects with his people. It's emotional intelligence, bro. Like, you need to understand how people are feeling. How are your people feeling, right? And this is kind of why I got into this whole field and doing team leadership coaching. Right back to my first startup, was that I really like that emotions are a really powerful way to know how your people are doing and feeling, and kind of predicting if they're going to stay with you, if they're going to do a good job, if they're what's going to motivate them. So those are the 3 things I think about, like your personal mindset, your habits, your discipline, right? Your actions and communication. And the third part is your emotional intelligence. Do you know how to handle if your employee comes and tells you, hey man, you suck today. You didn't do a good job. Can you not like, burst out at them? Or like if one of your top customers leave, are you just gonna like, you know what, F it, I'm taking the day off. Like I can't, like, you know what I mean? So emotions, mindset, discipline, those are the three things I think about a lot when I think about effective leaders and what they bring to the table.
I think that's one of the, I mean, I haven't experienced this personally, but I've heard stories of, like some of these companies that I get founding, and all of a sudden, I don't know, 20-year-old, let's say Zuck, just throw a name out there, he gets billions of dollars to build Facebook, right? But he's never had a quote unquote real job or work for anybody else, or has ever had a team. And, when you're a driven person, like you don't have the experience on how to communicate with a team. So it's like, you hear these horror stories. Like I tell everybody that when I bring him on my team, I was like, listen, when you're not working, I want you to turn off the notifications on Slack off, and don't even bother to check your email, because I'm going to send Slacks and emails at 5 a.m. on a Saturday, or, Tuesday at 2 a.m. or, because I could be laying on the couch and I'll get an idea or something will pop in my head, and I would run to my computer, grab my phone and send something out just so I don't forget. So I tell them, I was like, I don't want you to have anxiety that if you, for some reason you're seeing my email at 2 a.m. coming out of the bar or something, I don't expect you to answer me. So turn everything off. And, that was like the biggest deal that I had to explain at first. Like, I don't expect you to work as hard as me. Like, this is my thing. Like, you're a team member, you're part of my team, and I appreciate that. But dude, boundaries, like I want you to take your time off. I want you to go home and spend time with your family. I want you to go out and have fun. It's like, how do you, when you're dealing with some of these people, how do you get them to get that to their head? Because a lot of people, they don't think like I do, and they expect everyone else to work just as hard, if not harder, for them. And it's like, no, man, it's not their business. It shouldn't be that way.
Right.
So what's your experience with that in the past with some of these leaders that you have to deal with?
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Like, how often do we hear about people being like, I worked till like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. today, and then I got to wake up and do it again because my boss expects that. And it's like, oh, our company has like an open vacation policy, but nobody takes it because they don't want to be that one person who
I want you to take vacation. Take it. Just give me the heads up. I really do want you to take it.
Right. Exactly. So I think a lot of times the leader sets the tone, right? Like you said, you're the one drawing the boundaries. You're saying, making clear expectations. The reason I think most leaders don't do it, bro, is insecurity, right? Again, going back to the mindset thing. If you think, dude, I don't really deserve to be here, or like, my startup is going to fail, that means I'm going to fail. That means everyone will think I'm a failure, right? Like, you're not going to believe it, but those are the kind of like amygdala thoughts, right, in your head. Like, you're just like constantly fear driven. So insecurity is one of the top reasons why leaders act like micromanage, why leaders sometimes are like, yo, you need to respond to my email when I say it, because it's like a power move, right? Like, they want to feel like they have respect if they need to go out there and get respect. So if you understand that, listen, if you have faith, first of all, that the business is going to do just fine. If you built a good enough business, the point of that business should be that it should work even when you're not there, right? Like the guy who founded Patagonia, I love his example, dude. He literally takes like 4 months out of the year and he just goes fly fishing. And he goes for like 4 months in Wyoming. And he's like, if there's a fire in the warehouse, don't call me. It's not like I can do anything. I'm in freaking Wyoming.
I could never take 4 months off. I'm not built that way. I'm just not. I mean, I could probably take a month off if I really work hard, but I still got to know what's going on. But I love what I do, though. I love what I do. And it's not, as long as I get a report of the numbers, I'm good, but it's like,
that's exactly it.
But man, no, you need time off. You need vacations. You got to disconnect.
Yeah, and it's not even that, right? Like, the fact is, he's set in place people, processes, systems that he's okay with. He trusts them. He's like, look, if something goes off, I know you guys will handle it. That's what you need to get to. That's real leadership, dude. You need to do Richard Branson style leadership, right? Just put good people, good product, good processes in place, and then let them figure it out, right? So obviously in the beginning stage, like when you're just building your startup or just building a product, that's not going to happen, because is more going to be like, hey, here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to delegate. I'm a little less, but I'm going to tell you a lot more what to do. But as you get to the next level, right? Let's say you're trying to, first of all, just hit break even, you're going to be doing a lot of the stuff yourself. But when you make a little bit of money, you hire a couple of people, put them in place and make sure they work well, then you let go of that task. So you get a little bit more perspective. Now you can take that free time there and work on something else, make that good, and then jump off. So you're using kind of like ladders. You're trying to get to always one up to the next level. And that's the way you got to think about leadership. It's like, dude, you don't always have to be the person who's like looking over everything. In the beginning stages, yes, but as the company gets more stable and as you get more clients and you should be building in systems and processes so that you can step back and focus on bigger things, bigger clients, more strategy, hire more people. But you can't do that if your nose is in the weeds the whole time, right? Thinking like, oh, I got to be here because this is the only way the startup's going to survive, or, you know what I mean? So that mindset is constantly driving that fear. And as a result, employees have really shitty work conditions, people they work with. So
I think my biggest thing that I've been trying to work on for a while now, it's the meetings, man. The meetings, how to cut off the meetings, because the meetings, I feel like half of them are such a waste of time because they get sidetracked and people, oh, how's the weather? How's this? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, let's just get, but the problem with me is like, I'm very short when it comes to email. I'm not one of those people that's going to sit there and explain something in detail with, 4 paragraphs in an email. So sometimes I have to like talk, that's why I don't have a blog. That's why I have a YouTube channel. Cause I like just talking and podcasts. Right. So what's your recommendation when it comes to like being more efficient when it comes to cutting down on the meetings and then maybe Slack? You know what I mean? Like, what is your take on that? Because I mean, I've worked with some companies that they have so many meetings. I'm like, this is useless. Like, all these people shouldn't be here wasting their time for this, for this meeting.
Yeah, 100%. So again, I think about, meetings are like a tool, right? Slack is a tool, right? Basically, it's to help you kind of push the ball along, right? So what's the purpose of a meeting? It's to make sure everyone's on the same page or to make a decision, right? Meetings should be intentional. Before you come into a meeting, you got to know what it is that you're trying to get out of that meeting and who all should be there right before that meeting starts, right? So one of the first things I recommend is like the person running the meeting should come in and be like, hey, thanks everyone for coming here. I want to make sure we're on the same page about this. This is the goal of this meeting. The moment we're done, we can leave. We don't have to stay the whole time, right? Of course, people also want to use meetings as a way, especially if you're a CEO, like, it's a remote workplace. I got to make sure I check in with them. And honestly, every company is different. Some people like don't mind like bullshitting for like 10 to 15 minutes and just have like, they like that, right? I think it's more about intentionality. If it doesn't fit your work style,
I like 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, let's get to it. Come on.
Exactly. You got to figure out what works for you. Like some people do like walking meetings where they'll like talk to one of their employees and do like a personal catch up for 15 minutes once a week, right? And they'll just walk around because that's more intentional. That works with their style. Some people like doing it in the beginning of a meeting. But if you're talking about meetings, dude, I would say take a step back. What's your biggest goal? Right? If your goal is very simple and you got to come down to like I would say three goals every quarter. Like you should have 3 big priorities every quarter, and then you got to work your way down from that. So what I'm saying is that the meeting that you schedule should be directly connected to moving that ball towards that goal. So that's what I'm trying to say. So for example, if you're trying to launch a huge marketing campaign, then the intention of this meeting should be set in context of that goal, if that makes sense. Like, hey guys, we're trying to call this meeting because I want to make sure that we are on the same page about the Instagram, Facebook, and the LinkedIn ad campaign, and everyone's on the same page before we launch. Okay, that makes sense. Now everyone knows the point of the meeting. There's an urgency. We know who needs to be there, right? If you're just meeting without like, hey, I just want to check in, you could do that, but you're trying to not waste time, right? You want to make sure, how is this meeting connected? What are we doing here? Why are we here? You should ask that. Like, and so if you don't ask that, someone in your team, you should encourage people in your team to be like, okay, what is this meeting in context of one of our goals? What are we trying to do here? So push people to really say, hey, here's why we're meeting. And this is how it's connected to our annual, quarterly, whatever, monthly goal. And that way people now are like, okay, I get it. I need to be there. I don't need to be there. This is how long it can take. You can start making moves after that.
That makes sense. So, which brings me to my next point. So, what do you recommend? That people do, or team leaders, or what's the word I'm looking for efficiency? What do you recommend? How can they be more effective and more efficient in their daily lives, like setting up routines. Like I live on my calendar. Like my calendar is my life because, dude, I look at my calendar in the morning and halfway through the day I forget what's left. Like unless I see them pop up, you know. So I'm just busy. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm living in the moment. So I'm not thinking of like what's next in the calendar. I just look at it when I get the reminder. So how do you think? How can we? You know, if you're starting out, especially if you're just building your team, what do you recommend that leaders can do to be more effective and more efficient in their daily lives?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a big part of what I think about is like, I love the framework OKRs. So I think that's used for bigger companies, but I think everyone can use some version of that. And what that is like this framework called objectives and key results, right? So we talked about everybody needs three basic, like every company should have like three basic priorities or three goals every quarter. And then you break it down from there. I think that's the same of every single person. You should have each person in your team have like a very simple set of like, here are the goals. What are you trying? Like, what is your goals this quarter? This person I'm bringing in, right? A marketing person. Let's say you're bringing in a new marketing person. What's your goal here? I want you to hit X amount of sales. I want you to build a new digital campaign. I want you to keep it very simple, large level goals that they can break down into a quarterly basis and then work backwards from there, right? So everything is based on weekly updates of where that person is in relation to that goal. The same thing.
And have fun with it, right? Have fun with it. Like a big joke with us, like with my partner and I, one of my partners is like, when we're going through numbers and everything else, like the big joke that we have is like, yo, I need new shoes. It's a long story. But when the pandemic hit, I don't know, for some reason I started buying shoes. Don't ask me why. I've never been a shoe person. I live in Florida by the beach, so I wear sandals 90% of the time. But for some reason, when the pandemic hit, all the ads from Nike started hitting me, and I just, oh, those are cool. Buy. So that became a joke between us. So every time we go through the numbers, it's like, okay, how's my shoe budget looking this month? You know, make it silly, right? There's nothing wrong with making it silly. I think people take it, especially in corporate America, man. They take it so seriously and so boring. I'm like, have fun with it, right?
Yeah.
By being efficient. I mean, and set up a routine that you can follow daily, like you know, even if it's tasked to your calendar. I mean, that's my take on it. I just want to, you know, I'm bringing it up because I want to see if that's what you recommend too, as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think one of the biggest things is don't mistake busy for productivity. You know what I mean? I'm caught, like, you can answer a bunch of emails. You can.
I've done it. I've been guilty of it.
Right. And we all do it, bro. I still do it. I try not to do it. And I tell my clients not to do it. And we all try, but it's hard, right? Like, what I'm trying to say is you should only care about the things that make the most value for your company. Everything else should be secondary. If you're not moving the ball in the top three things for the company this quarter, it's garbage. Like, for example, if your job is to get sales, and, you know, sales is directly a result of you making 100 pitches that month, then, and I'm being very simplistic, if you're out there posting blogs or doing interviews and that's not leading to the sales, that might make you feel like you're doing work, but you're just, you know, that's not directly progress building. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, really focus on it. And to your point, make it fun, right? Like, if you as a team and you're like, guys, we need to hit our goal of reaching out to 100 salespeople, 100 potential clients this quarter, first person to do it gets lunch on me, right? Like,
you can new shoes.
Gets new shoes, right? Get the new Yeezys.
Right? New Yeezys, new pair of Nikes.
So, you know what I mean? So you can make it fun. You can figure out ways to make it fun. But what I'm trying to say is, like, you got to be very crystal clear. What is the top goal? And what does that look like for me? And what does that look like for everyone else who I work with? And rinse and repeat that once a week. Hey, how's it going, man? How's it going with that digital campaign? Oh, how's it going with hiring our new person, right? Like, just keep hitting that same milestones over and over again and see how far people are doing. And that should be the core thing. As long as you're doing that, then you're good. It doesn't matter whether you did it on a weekend or you did it on a day, like you only work 2 hours a day. It doesn't matter. As long as you hit your goals, you could take, like, that's what you're talking about. You could take off and go to the beach, right? Like, you don't have to be there in the office the whole day grinding just so you can look like you're productive. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, especially now with all the technology that we have. Like, listen, I'm busy, but it's because I choose to be as busy as I am. I could probably cut my day by half if I wanted to, but, you know, I like to grow things and I like to do that. But, you know, it's the beauty of it. It's like, I wake up in the morning, I get to spend time with my kid for a little bit. And then, you know, through the day, I'll take a break here and there and go spend time with him again, because we're lucky enough to have him at home, you know, and we both work from home. So it's like, I'm telling you, man, I've done the 16-hour days, no breaks, no nothing, and you get accomplished more by literally structuring your day and even taking breaks in between.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, man, you refresh your brain, you know, staring at a screen for 16 hours straight. I used to think it was more productive, and it really isn't. It's really, you need to refresh, you know, let your brain take it all in, and, you know, and do some exercise too, man. I used to be the most unhealthy person ever. And then at one point I was like, all right, I got to stop drinking all the time and working out and eating healthy. So take a break, go to the gym for an hour, you know, even if it's in the middle of the day, you know, at 1 p.m. or whatever, break up your day a little bit. It really, I think it keeps you fresh. You know what I mean? It's good to do it instead of just grinding all day long. But listen, Nikhil Paul, dude, thank you so much for coming on. It's well over even an hour. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, man, I'm on LinkedIn, you know, search for me, Nikhil Paul, Nikhil, Paul. My company's We Are Human, like just the letter R. So We Are Human. You can find me on Instagram at weare.human, or on LinkedIn as well, and on Facebook. So reach out, come say hi. I put up stuff all the time on how to have a high performance team, high performance culture. I love this stuff, man. I love helping small entrepreneurs and build their companies and build their teams. I've been there. So
no, man, I can tell. I can hear the passion. So I get it, just like I have it. So
exactly.
No, definitely, guys. If you wanna take your team to the next level, you know, somebody who grew up in a background in sales and had amazing, you know, sales leaders and some horrible ones, I can tell you that if you get your team together, you know, and you don't have the experience, and, you know, you can talk to Nikhil here and he can give you the pointers on how to build that team, your productivity will go through the roof, man, because if you have a bunch of degenerates running all over the place without any structure, you're not going to get anything done. Trust me on that, especially if you're running a sales team. I was a sales guy, and we're a bunch of degenerates we're good at that for a reason. So anyway, Nikhil, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on. We got to definitely do it again at some point. And guys, all the links will be in the description. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.